And Heather joined the Suicide Prevention Action Network as a field liaison in December 2007. She does grassroots and advocacy work for the 8th District of Virginia as well as the state of Maine. Heather's father lost his battle with depression in August 2007. His loss has motivated her to join SPAN to educate others and to make a difference. I mentioned that she'll be joining Active Minds shortly. She's also worked for Senator Susan Collins up on Capitol Hill, including on the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs. She graduated from the University of Maine with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in International Affairs. Heather, thanks for being here.
Hi, I'm Heather Smith. That's my dad, Kevin Smith, so that is why I'm here, while Richard and Brian are experts on statistics and your community. I will try to be your expert in pain, and we'll see how well that goes. I think what I'm supposed to be saying to you all is that I'm a survivor of suicide, and I'm going to try not to use today as my confessional of that, but instead speak to you about why survivor means just surviving at life. And I did that for 27 years before I found a reason to come to you all today. 294 days ago, my father, on August 2nd, 2007, Kevin Barry Smith, died by suicide at the age of 50. His birthday is a week from tomorrow, and like the rest of our family, he loves birthday week, and so instead of starting tomorrow for that, for the past week I've been preparing how to tell you what it's like to lose a family member to suicide, the struggles my family has faced, and then at the same time to try to honor him, his struggles, and the release of his pain. My dad's actually the reason that I came or ended up in D.C., and when he was alive, he would be sure to point that out to me on a regular basis, especially after every one of my minor successes. It was my junior year in college at the University of Maine, studying political science, that I sought out an internship with Senator Susan Collins and sent out my application. Unfortunately for her, my father was seated on a plane directly next to her 2 weeks later, and had the opportunity to verbally assault her with words of praise on my behalf. Poor woman, she's very patient and kind. But while he sat there and told her, I had a 4.0, I was bound to win a Pulitzer Prize, I was the president of every sorority, sports club, and debate team, he did this like he did every time he spoke to us, with great pride in his eyes and his voice booming and exaggerating the whole way. But I had a 3.2. I changed my major with every season, and the only president I was of anything in college was wine club. So, nevertheless, I somehow, shockingly, received my acceptance letter 14 days later. So I did thank the senator for that, and I've always known that my father did that for me. I just didn't tell him too much. He really enjoyed that. He thought it was by his doing. But I've always appreciated that. However, it was in the first job that I had for Senator Collins that he first attempted suicide. He had been struggling with depression and bipolar, and had previously been an alcoholic, but was up to about 8 years or so sober. However, I received a phone call at work one day in which he just wanted to let me know he was leaving work to go home and kill himself. And he called to say goodbye and to tell me to take care of my sister and that everything would be okay and that he's sorry. And then he hung up on me. And so my struggle actually started on February 9th of 2004 in keeping my father alive. Out of concern, I called his wife, the police, and anyone that I thought could stop him on the way home, and had him hospitalized for a day. And when you're struggling with mental health, what ends up happening is I usually ended up taking the blame where he lashed out when he was embarrassed or basically unsuccessful. And so my reward for my efforts at the time was a year of silence with him. And shortly thereafter, my sister faced the same punishment as he continued on with his problems and his battles with addiction and things of that nature. We chose to do silence because it takes a toll on you fighting someone that doesn't want to be helped. I started talking to him. Yep, this is us, the Smiths, sitting in Amana, having a good time. This was before the first suicide attempt. This is my sister Katie, my dad, and myself. So I brought this picture to give you an image of what my family is like when we're happy, and how it was often hard to see my dad's struggles. But moving on, my sister demanded to know when I informed her that I was going to start speaking to my father again a year later, what was my reasoning, because we had made a pact to stay strong as a family together. And I said the first is that we both love him very much, and that's the easy one. The second reason is much harder for me to admit to myself, forget the rest of the world and you all. But I knew, and I was afraid that if I don't talk to him, I knew very well that if I give up, one day he will succeed and he will kill himself. And on August 2nd, 2007, my boyfriend picked me up at work, unannounced, sat me down in my car, and told me that my father was dead. I didn't want sympathy or to believe it, but I knew, and I didn't have to ask what happened. And so I called his house immediately, demanding to speak to him, and my stepmother answered, ignoring any sort of rational thought that I had to face what he had just told me, and said, I'd like to please speak to my father, because I was so insistent that he was probably just sitting on the couch like he was every evening at 6 o'clock, reading the paper and watching the Red Sox, and I needed to hear from him. All she could say was, Heather, you can't speak to him. He's not here anymore. He's gone. And I panicked and pleaded, needing my 5 minutes of denial, knowing that he had called me that week to talk, and I hadn't answered because his calls were so frequent when he was manic or depressed, and I would get back to him. And I listened to his voicemail and got past the part, hi Heather, it's your father, and then I deleted it. And now I know that I'll never hear his voice again. And I knew that he didn't die of natural causes. There was no disaster in the state of Maine that day. And so I just asked, how did he do it? That was the only thing left. And she calmly told me, my stepmother, that after she left for work that day, he finished his coffee, left his note, walked into the woods and shot himself in the chest twice, which, I don't know if it's an amazing feat, I suppose, but I stopped listening at that point. Because at that point, I had a sense of urgency. I needed to know what he said for me. I needed to know what he left for me. And so I asked if he had left a letter. And she said yes, but in her apologetic tone, I knew instantly that he didn't leave anything for me or my sister. He left instructions on how to run the snowblower, but he didn't say goodbye to me. It's hard to understand that rational amount of insanity, but my sister was leaving for vacation the following morning from Maine for a week, and he left us knowing that he left us in silence and that he had left her without making amends. My stepmother asked if I would be the one to tell her, and so I had 12 hours to make it to Maine to tell my younger sister that he wasn't ever going to be here to say that he's sorry to her, and that I had to deliver the worst news of our life. And our lives been the same since then. And I will tell you a funny story, or try, it's somewhat amusing. You always try to find a way to cope with the death of your parent, especially when it's unexpected. And I found myself at times really irrational, emotional, and childish, especially around the holidays, which are a fun time when you're dealing with grief of losing a parent. Christmas was pretty terrible, and there is a funny story that involves listening to an excessive amount of Christmas carols and having a couple glasses of wine. I was 28, I am 28, but at the time I acted like I was 6 because all I ever wanted for Christmas was my father to come back. And so one night right before Christmas, I decided to have my couple glasses of wine while making soup and filling out Christmas cards. And I should have known better than to whip out the Christmas carols. That it never helped me, especially O Holy Night, which I now know is a huge emotional trigger and cannot be brought out during Christmas season. And after those few glasses of wine, you put that song on repeat a couple times, and I thought it was appropriate to have a complete meltdown in my living room, dragging out pictures and journals and obituaries, and the baby urn that keeps some of the remains that I did not get rid of when we did my father's memorial service with his ashes. I bring this all out, spread this all across the floor, and I'm going to have some sort of Christmas ceremony for myself. And this is going to be slightly horrific if you want to picture it, but comical. Me sitting Indian style with my belongings all around me, crying, thinking to myself that I'm going to open the urn. Just a little bit. I just want to see what's in it. It's this big, and I should know very well, it does not remain what my father used to look like, nor is there a little ghost that's going to pop out of my father, the ghost of Christmas past, to surprise me and talk to me or entertain me on Christmas. So sobbing to the urn, I'm not really sure what's going on here, that I just want to see you again to myself over and over again doesn't really make much sense, especially if you can see when I open the urn sitting Indian style crying and making this plea, I thought that the ashes would probably go poof, which they did, just a little bit, nothing too scary. But when you see your father's ashes trickling down onto your pajama bottoms at Christmas time while you're crying, you realize you've really hit rock bottom and trying to connect with your parent that's no longer there. And so I won't be doing that Christmas ceremony again, or anything closely related to that. Sometimes I do hope that he sees things like that I will teach him a lesson for what he's done and how he's left me, and hopefully I don't horrify him. I would rather make him more proud of me and not have so many of those comical situations. But I hope I do both. I hope I do horrify him on some days, and I do hope I make him proud and happy on others. It's one of my greatest regrets in losing my father that I didn't get the chance to say goodbye. I wanted him to hear it, and I wanted him to look me in the eye. Because it's so difficult to explain to people that losing someone to suicide isn't like losing someone to cancer or a car accident. People can make peace with those tragedies, unlike the lack of peace that I've been able to find in my life. You don't have to ask why for the rest of your life if your parent passes from cancer. You don't have to feel guilty every waking moment of the day, wishing you could have done something differently. Cancer doesn't make people disappear 1 second when they were there the second before. And like most people that commit suicide, my father didn't leave us with an option to say goodbye. And so after months, I couldn't leave him without saying anything because with no funeral, there's no eulogy. And so I wrote him a letter a few months after his death. And it's one of my wishes in doing the advocacy work that I try to do now, is how to educate people on the difference and the tragedy and sadness of what it is like to lose someone that you can't say goodbye to. And I'll read you the letter that I wrote to my father, and I hope it gives you a better understanding of what survivors of suicide go through. Dear Dad, after tossing 6 pounds bash into the sea yesterday, I know you're not coming back for me. I needed to know it, not just accept it, and there was no denying you were gone for good when I found my hands covered in soft and grainy ash, gray and thick. The tiny bones scattered within your powder-like remains felt smooth like the seashells below and sometimes glimmered in the air, when I tossed you high and softly towards the clouds. Letting you go broke my heart. I watched over and over again as you crashed against the cliffs, only then to get sucked out into the endless blue abyss. It was like watching a best friend walk away from you forever without ever once looking back. It was fitting that Hurricane Noel tore through Maine Saturday, forcing us to postpone your ceremony one more day. Because of course it was a hurricane. You tore through the hearts and minds of everyone that you encountered. And I've always been amused when people say I'm quite the presence, because I get that from you, and it's true. You were quite the presence. I know you were there yesterday when we held your memorial, or at least I hope that you were. I read once that everyone always attends their own funeral service when they die. I hope you were there to listen to us as we apologized and admitted our guilt for not feeling your pain earlier. I hope you heard Katie tell you that she forgives you for not speaking to her before you died. But I hope you heard louder the pain in her voice when she promised to still always make you proud of her. I hope when Judy thanked you for 16 and a half years of marriage and promised to love you for every day for the rest of her life, I hope those words will never escape you, because they won't escape her. And hearing her say that as she cried and trembled between us, it was something that you never wish you'd see your wife or mother say. And I hope that you believed us. I hope that you believed us when each of us agreed that we would trade everything we have to spend one last minute with you, to hug you, to smell you, to take our very last mental snapshot of your rosy cheeks and big grand smile. I'm not sure that I'll ever find the right words to say to you, Dad. I'll always feel like I have one chance, and I'll always feel like I'm going to mess it up, or leave something out, or say the wrong thing. I want you to know a few things, though. I've loved you every day for the last 28 years of my life, and I will love you every day until I take my last breath. The next time my mother accidentally yells, "You're just like your father," which is often, I'll just smile and say thank you. I understand what you did, Dad, and I know that you didn't mean to hurt me. I just wanted to be able to say goodbye. I just wanted to tell you that you will always mean the world to me, and I just wanted to tell you that I was always out to make you laugh and make you proud. That I need your hugs when things aren't okay, and I didn't really mind when you liked to call me 6 times in a row at work to talk about absolutely nothing. I wanted you to know that I thought you were strong. This June would have been your 10-year anniversary without alcohol, and I wanted to tell you how proud I was of you. I never told you that I admired you for having to raise 2 girls under the age of 5 at 27 years old. I never thanked you for doing your part and keeping us happy when we went through the many trying times families often have. I never thanked you for just doing the best that you could. I wish I wasn't so spoiled or bratty or selfish, and I wish I knew then what I know now, how tough it is to even handle my own life at the age of 28. Forget raising 2 kids, but I think I turned out okay, so that means you did swell. It's easy to tell you without a doubt that I will miss your smile, your hugs, and your booming laugh the most. And I will still need you, Dad. I'll need you for guidance, and I'll need you to back. And I'll just need you to be there to listen during the times when everyone else is too busy offering advice, and all I want is silence. I'll do my best to take care of the girls and the house, but if you could just look over us, though, I'd feel a lot better. And more than anything in this world, I hope you are free of pain, and I hope one day we'll be together again soon. I really do love you so, so much, Dad, and take care wherever you are. All my love and high fives forever. Junior, which is what he called me, because he didn't get a son. So, that's what you do when you don't get to say goodbye. You write a letter to your dad and you read it to yourself, or anyone that will listen, which is very common if you have those types of friends. So I'm here again because I'm not an expert of the grief of all suicide survivors, but just my own. And the reason I choose to speak to you all today is because if I can help in any way to prevent one family from feeling the pain and experience the loss that mine has, then it'll be well worth the effort. My dad, when healthy, was one of the funniest, most intelligent, engaging, and charming people I know. He gave engulfing hugs, the most engulfing hugs on this planet, and he was so loud and belligerent sometimes it just had to make you smile. I have to wake up every day and remind myself that he's not coming back. This isn't a vacation. I won't ever see him again. It's not a horrible dream, but it's not my fault. And he did love me whether or not he had the chance to say so himself. It's just that thinking of the future without him is often harder for me than dealing with the present. There will be no more celebrations together over New England sports, which is really a shame considering how poorly the Yankees are doing this season. Which I enjoy. I can't call him when I close on my first house. He won't be here to walk me down the aisle, or to dance with me at my wedding, or to thank the groom for taking me off his hands. He'll never meet his grandkids, and I'll never have the chance to thank him for all the sacrifices and hard work, as I wish I could have done, or should have done many more times when he was alive. I would honestly trade every last thing I own just to have 5 more minutes with my father. I just want to tell him that I will be okay, that I understand what he did now when I stopped blaming and being angry, and that if leaving us really did release his pain that he thought he could while he was here, and if it ended his lifelong battle with mental illness and addiction, then yes, I don't need him anymore physically to take care of me. I'll be fine by myself. I just wanted to tell him one last time where I could touch him. And so that's why I'm here today, just to be a reminder to all of you the pain that's outside of the statistics. This is what people are left with when someone in their family or community dies from suicide. The work you all do and the time that you give matters so greatly to people like me and my family when we get the chance to find out who is there in the community after this terrible tragedy. What you do is you give us hope, and you give us the desire to help other people and to take the time to help ourselves. And because this community has done so much for me, I quit my high-tech lobbying job 3 weeks ago so that I could go to Active Minds and devote all my time and energy to helping this cause and preventing maybe 1 or 2 cases, if that's possible. So thank you. I just want to thank you for all that you do, and especially thank you for having me here so that I can honor my father and share my story with you.
Thank you, Heather, for your eloquence and courage in coming and speaking with us today. Let's open it up for questions. We have a few minutes of any questions that anyone would like to ask for any of us on the panel.
Heather, I want to thank you for the courage, the genuineness that you showed to us. I needed to hear that. I have bipolar 1 like your dad, and I almost made it. And I need to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I'm sure that many of us are reacting to the powerful emotions that his story. So please feel free to take a moment if you need to before sharing or asking a question.
I just wanted to make one other thing that wasn't mentioned in either Richard or I's presentation is post-vention is prevention, and that, as I mentioned, we have a funeral director's guide, and there are survivor support groups located throughout the country. They're not right for everybody, but for those that they are right for, there are links on our website as well as AAS, the American Association of Suicidology, and AFSP, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. All three of our websites have links where you can find a survivor support group in your community. Also, they can be hard to find in rural areas, and one sort of new wave innovation in post-vention are internet support groups. Some people utilize them because they are in rural areas and there aren't a large enough mass to have a survivor support group in person in their area. And other people utilize them mostly because they just want to talk over the computer as opposed to in person. And it's easier for them to deal with their emotions and talk to other people about their emotions online than it is in person. So there are also internet support groups available, and post-vention and prevention as well.
Thanks, Brian. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming and for listening and participating and for being part of the important work of suicide prevention. Have a good conference.